A land with no hope, buildings falling apart, a lawless, desolate countryside, feral bikie gangs no matter where you turn. It's 1970s rural Australia, and we fucking love it.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
G'day, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of Marathon Me with your host Kane
and Rhys.
And today we're really showing off our Australian pride these next couple of weeks, because today we're starting off our journey into the wasteland, but not quite just yet, as we are going to be tackling the Mad-Max series, and today we're tackling the original 1979 George Miller classic. Rhys, tell us about your history with the Mad-Max series, if you have any.
Oh, sorry, my throat was a bit weird earlier in the episode. Don't know why that I was just talking like that. So
that's all right. It's probably just dehydration or something, you know.
Yeah, probably. It's all the sands in my throat. Well,
yeah, you're method acting, getting ready for really trying to immerse yourself in the film experience.
Dude, that's actually fucking perfect that you bring that up, because so we're talking about Mad Max here, and I have to say, because I'm a big Australian cinema fan, I adore the Mad Max franchise. I would call myself a well-versed Mad Max fan to the point that so I've seen all these films before a few times. I love each and every one and what the unique sort of angle that they put out there into the world. And first time that I watched all of these was during lockdown, and I marathoned pretty much all of them in a single day, the day that I got my first COVID vaccine. And my body didn't really react that well to it. So by the end of the day, after I'd finished watching all these movies, I had this feverish, terrible sort of migraine that all I remember from this experience was that I had the worst fever dreams of my life that placed me in the middle of the Mad Max universe, where I felt myself choking on sand, just dryness inside my entire body, and exactly what you sort of said is that I entered the world of Mad Max through these bizarre, intense fever dreams. But even despite the torturous experience of these dreams, I adore this franchise, and with pretty much everyone's going Mad Max mad at the moment, right? With the release of Furiosa. So we're here to explore the wasteland, to give some context as to how we ended up here. And it's our duty as Australians to talk about this, with Mad Max arguably being probably Australia's biggest IP export in the entire world. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially later on down the road, with Mad Max
down the road.
3B.
Down the road, warrior.
Didn't even intend that, but that's perfect. No, but down the road, being some of the most expensive Australian-made movies of their time, this is kind of the big tentpole Australian IP, film IP. I mean, I feel like a lot of American film goers, when they think of Australia or Australian cinema, they'll think of Mad Max. And also they'll think of, if they're thinking about Australian actors, they'll think of, say, Mel Gibson, even though he's not Australian.
Totally. When it's interesting that you say that with some of the most expensive Australian films ever made, that us starting with the original Mad Max today, it was definitely not the case at that point.
Oh, definitely not.
This movie was made on a very bare $350,000 to $400,000 budget, but then made over $100 million in the global box office.
Oh, it's fucking nuts.
And this movie that we're talking about today became, for a point in history, one of the most profitable films ever. Like, in the budget to box office ratio that it created, which is, when you look at it on paper, it's close to like it's almost like a 330 times freaking return on investment. Insane.
Oh, completely. And from what I remember, it held that record for like one of the biggest budget profits for a low budget movie up until I think 1999, with like obviously the release of Blair Witch Project obviously having a way lower budget and then blowing up at the box office. But still, to hold that still for a movie like made for like fucking peanuts and pennies back in like the 1970s, to also just hold that title for so long of being like, you know, a very, very profitable movie for the budget that it had, fucking insane. My goodness.
Yeah. Actually, because it was Australian, it was made on beer nuts and VBs, not peanuts and pennies.
Hey, don't forget Siggy. Don't forget Siggy's, mate. Don't forget Durries.
And Siggy butts.
Darts.
And Siggy butts. Okay, Kane, what about you? What's your history been with the Mad Max franchise?
Oh yeah, true. Okay, so one, I actually completely forgot about the fact that you had actually seen these movies before. Obviously I remember your Australian marathon. Did not remember that you watched the Mad Max movies. So I kind of thought that we were both going in blind, or at least like you had seen these like as a kid type thing. But for me, I've seen Fury Road. Like, I watched Fury Road, I think like a year after it came out on Blu-ray, because I got the nice 3D Steelbook edition, boys. Don't mean to flex it all, but yeah. So I've seen Fury Road.
Courtesy of JV Hi-Fi, probably.
Oh, please. Where else would it come from? No Blockbuster, sadly.
Yeah, exactly. Big Australian call-outs this episode.
Yeah, oh, hell, this whole series probably. Nah, but,
not a single JB Hi-Fi in this film. What's going on?
It's ridiculous.
Is it even Australian?
It's ridiculous, honestly, man. No Woolworths either, like, fuck's sake. God.
Yeah, more of a Coles World, the Wasteland, honestly.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, keep on going, sorry.
Yeah, nah, true. Nah, but anyways, yeah, I had seen. So yeah, apart from Fury Road, I had never seen the Mel Gibson iterations of these movies. I'd never seen like the original, the OG trilogy type thing. I was always fascinated by these movies, like the originals, but had never really found. You know how like there's a types of movies that you really want to watch, but you just don't have the energy, or you just like. You can't really, I guess for lack of a better word, you can't be fucked watching them. Like, you'll be like, damn, I really want to see this, but you just never get around to it, kind of thing. Like, that's the case for me with so many movies, and that's like, I've said this so many times, but like, that's the great thing about the show, is that like, you know, the types of series that we do, it's a great way to like get us both, or me or you, into series or sequels or whatever that we would maybe have never watched on our own, you know, per se.
It's all those movies and TV series that are just doomed to take up real estate in our watch lists for eternity. Yes. And it's just so difficult to be like, to find a moment that you're like, okay, I'm in the exact right mood for this. So I totally get you. But dude, this makes me so excited to talk about these films with you. So without further ado, we join Max, a police officer in rural Australia at the end of the earth. Resources are limited, people are starting to return to their primal ways, and the whole world is on the brink of going absolutely mad. Oh, God, again, I don't know what just happened. Like, anyway,
you sure you don't want to get that checked out?
Yeah, okay. After recording, I'll probably go to the doctor. But anyway, here's a little bit of the trailer of Mad Max.
Tomorrow, in a world gone mad, the only law will be a renegade squad of suicidal cops.
He's my prisoner, and he's not walking out that door.
And the open road will be controlled by gangs of glory roaders. Max is a cop, one of the best.
Where does they're out to get you? Scoot jockeys? Yeah, nomad trash. Well, I'll add it to my thread collection.
Now I know you're an avid Mad Max head, a regular Max head. Max Headroom head or whatever the fuck you want to call it. That's terrible. Cut that out. Get me off the show. But we're gonna roll with it. Sorry, I'm just going a bit mad right now. But what are your general thoughts on this original film that started it all, Rhys?
As a big Max head myself, I adored every second of this first film. It has got to be a better and better film each time that I watch it, and I've got to say, it is probably a 5-star film for me. I've got, I find it very difficult to fault this film in any way that the flaws of it only adds more charm to it all, I believe. So I freaking adore this. I'm going to be the biggest Mad Max 1 defender in the world. But, Kane, with this being your first viewing of this, the first time joining Mel Gibson as Max, what did you think on your first watch?
Now, what's it called? So, the watch conditions weren't exactly ideal. It was freezing in my room. I didn't want to turn the heater on because it has, annoying settings where it starts glowing it starts glowing where I'm just making up excuses because I fucking hate this movie. No, don't worry. You're fine. No, I was just look, I think the conditions of watching this movie affected it a little bit because I was in a pretty sour mood watching this. But at the end of the day, I think this is a really good movie. It was really great, yes. Even really great. Especially for the time period that it was made and the budget and just what could be accomplished with such little experience as well. With George Miller, this being his big directorial debut and having kind of no real prior history of filmmaking before this, having been a doctor before becoming a director, is so impressive. Just what was brought to the screen. Now for me, I personally don't love it as much as you do. I have not really issues with the film itself, but I think it's more so just comes down to me. It just comes down to me personally as a viewer. But while I may not think of it as a 5-star movie as you may, I don't connect to it as much. I still gotta sing its praises. I think it is a really good movie. Honestly, I had a really good time watching this movie, and definitely due for a rewatch as well. I gotta say.
Okay, what is the completely justified? This is watching this film. I can definitely tell that it's not for everyone. And also so this is the third time that I've watched this, and first time that I watched it, I wasn't really a big fan either. I was a bit oh yeah, I didn't mind that, but then it grew on each subsequent watch. What is it mainly that you can't really attach to with this one? That's what I'm curious about.
I really don't know how to place it because, I feel like a lot of first-time viewers would not connect with this movie due to the fact that the Mad Max IP, when you think of Mad Max, you think of the desert, you think of these crazy maniacs dressed in leather gimp suits and these elaborate contraptions on cars. And when you think of Mad Max, you think of the later films, you think of Beyond Thunderdome, you think of Road Warrior, you think of Fury Road. With this one, It is a completely different beast. There are pieces of what the series would become in this original entry. You got the Maniacs. You do have some incredible car chases and stunt work that we'll get to later. But for me, I went in knowing that this was a different beast. That this was basically a quaint little, basically just a quaint little indie revenge story in the same vein as say the 70s exploitation films of the time, say Death Wish, for example. But I think for me, I don't know really how to put my finger on it. It just didn't click with me the first time, and I part of me doesn't know why. Maybe I just found it hard to connect with the characters. Maybe it was also just the mood that I was in, or maybe it's just I I really don't know how to put my finger on it, but I feel like it was just sometimes when I watch a movie, sometimes it just lacks that connection, that spark that really makes me fall in love with a film. I can watch a movie and enjoy it, but sometimes I just won't click with it the way that I want to, and that is some of the most frustrating viewing experiences that I have. But yeah, I feel like also, like, this is a very breezy watch as well. This is the one thing that shocked me about these movies. They're all not that long, especially like the original trilogy. They're not long movies. They're only like an hour and a half tops for the first three, which is insane. But I feel like. Oh, sorry, you go.
And so much of that is populated with action, right? Like, there's it's the action to let's just slow down and talk ratio is fairly high, even for this first one, which has the most amount of exposition and random little bits in it.
Yeah.
Well, like when I send myself back to that first viewing and where I didn't really connect with it is that it has a really strange structure, right? Like, and also that there's no real happy ending. So you think, like, I remember first time watching it thinking, oh, what's the point of all of this then? Like, this isn't what I'm wanting to sort of get. Like, no, like everyone is in a worse position now at the end of the film than what they were at the start.
Yeah, true.
And also, it is alienating when you know the Mad Max IP as something so separate to what you're watching right then and there. If you go in with expectations of this big sandy wasteland and then you get just freaking Albury Wodonga, like a regional freaking Australian town, then you do feel a bit like, oh, okay, there's I'm not getting what I wanted out of this, and the campiness is almost a bit more subtle in this than it is explicit in the other two Mel Gibson Mad Max films.
Yeah.
So I totally get it. I totally get it. But I feel like upon some rewatches, you may get more out of it, which I hope so.
I agree with you. I definitely think that upon rewatches, I'll have a more richer experience with the film, and maybe also like a deeper appreciation for the film as a whole. Because while I may not be in love with this movie, I can't stress it enough of how much I respect this movie. This is definitely a movie that I respect, at least at this point in time, as of recording, a movie that I respect more than I actually enjoy. I still really like it, but yeah, that's basically like what I can kind of say about the original, at least. I think for me is that you touched on the fact that it doesn't really have what would be considered like a happy ending, which, like, I wasn't bothered by that, because I actually do really like of how kind of like bleak the ending is, because, you know, it's a revenge tale, but like even the revenge that Max gets, you don't feel that satisfaction, which, like, I like in revenge stories where you don't get that sense of satisfaction, or where even though the protagonist gets what they want, that revenge, they still, there's that piece of them that the emptiness and the hollowness and the loss that they feel is still prevalent within them. Like, you know, for example, say like Last of Us 2. That's one of my that is one of my favorite revenge stories, because it is not doing what most, like, you know, like regular revenge stories would do, where it touches on like kind of how the revenge makes it doesn't do anything for said person. It doesn't give them that satisfaction that they want. It's almost like it's a fool's dream, really, and you don't get that sense of satisfaction in this movie, which I really enjoy. I think for me, it definitely comes down to the structure, which I feel like I can excuse this first movie because it is made by a lot of first timers. So I can and in some ways kind of feels a bit like a student film in a ways, where a lot of it is very amateurishly done, and they're kind of not really knowing what they're doing in the moment, because like a lot of the time, like a lot of the cast and crew, they had no idea what the fuck this movie was going to be. They had no idea what was going on. Like, they were kind of just playing it by ear and just trusting they were trusting it in the hands of George Miller, basically. So I can excuse some of the pacing issues, because the first act, great. Like the last 30 minutes, like riveting. It's just,
totally.
it's just a decent chunk in the middle where it just, like, look, I don't want to say it drags or anything, but it wasn't really hooking me in per se. Plus, also, like, there's a decent portion of this movie where it's not really Max's story. You're kind of following the story of Goose in a way, because a lot of the second chunk of this movie, you're following Goose, and like he's kind of in a way revenge tale, because like, you know, during the movie they, you know, a couple is violently assaulted off camera, like, you know, on camera and off camera by the biker gang, and Goose,
the toe cutters.
The toe cutters.
The toe cutter gang.
I like that. But you know, when they find the couple, you know, it's really more so Goose that's like really hell bent on getting this revenge, especially like when they find you know, the one black, the kid. That's which I'm pretty sure that's what he's credited as in the movie. Am I right about that?
No idea.
All right. Well, I'm just. I remember reading it. I remember reading it this morning, so I'm just gonna go with that. But yeah, like, and then, you know, we had that big argument in the police station, and a lot of the time it's like, yeah, it's kind of Goose's story, and like I think Goose is a fine character, but like because I went in, you know, wanting this Mad Max story. For a decent portion of this movie to be following a different character, it just kind of threw me for a loop. You know what I mean?
Well, have you noticed that the Mad Max figure on the main key art for the film is Goose?
It's not. Yeah. It's not Max. Yeah.
So that's Goose.
It's insane. It's insane. I remember. You know, it's funny because I remember. It's funny. I remember watching like some Mad Max reviews like a month before we started doing this series, kind of mainly because like, you know, I was interested in like seeing other people's opinions on these movies, but also because it was funny because I think at the time. Here's a little thing for the audience. So at the time, guys, we were planning on doing the Planet of the Apes series, you know, in, you know, preparation for the new one that's coming out. Not the reboot trilogy. We were planning on doing all of them. So because at the time we were very like almost set on doing Planet of the Apes, I'm like, okay, let's watch some Mad Max stuff, because it was either going to be, you know, Apes or Max, you know, and eventually, like almost like the last minute decision, we're like, no, you know what? Let's do Mad Max, because I feel like it hits closer to home, and it's also, you know, we'd be doing 10 movies, so, you know, doing 5 Max films, I think that's more it's more fair enough. There's only so many times we can talk about apes and monkeys and monkeying around, you know. Yeah,
we're getting ready for the monkeys. There's. You mentioned before that, like, about George Miller being like working in a hospital, and
yes,
and before he actually like started making this movie, and like how he got inspired by seeing all these like car crash victims come in, and thought, okay, there's something to explore here, and like put on screen. And like this is the thing that like strikes me about this movie, and what makes me think in another world I would only like this movie even more is that, man, I am so not a car guy, and not everyone on set really, I think, seems to know a hell of a lot about making movies, but I have a but you get a real sense that most people on set fucking love cars. Like and they know their stuff about cars, and like the practical effects with these cars are just, it's insane. It's insane what they're able to do, and you can really see and feel the freaking danger that is going on set. You can even in certain shots you just see people get hit in the head and like flying through the air, that you're like, that's actually happening. That's actually happening in front of me. Wow.
This is all for real. This is all for real, and a lot of the stunts were also like illegally done.
They just closed the streets without actual permission. They just did it.
What you know what's so funny about this movie is that one of my favorite little tidbits that I learned is that during one, I think it might have been during the opening chase, I don't remember, but do you remember like the scene of like the rocket powered car?
Yes, yeah. I think that comes near the end.
Right, yeah, okay. Sure. That is a real rocket that they did strap to the back of a car that I think it was like some military organization of Australia. They were the cast and crew, like George Miller approached them and was like, "Hey, can we use a rocket and strap it to the car?" And because this was the 70s, they're like, "Fuck it, yeah, go ahead, do it."
That is the most Australian thing I've heard. Oh, fuck it, yeah, here you go, mate.
Yeah, like it's insane. Like they were doing illegally done stunts, closing off roads, and then decide like, "Hey, let's go ask the military for just a fucking military grade rocket." And they're just like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And yeah, exactly. Such an Australian blokey thing to do.
There's no such thing as a permit in Australia. It's just if you want to do something and you ask the right person, then they'll let it happen. If it's cool enough, then that is the barrier for entry. The people at this freaking military organization would have been like, "Fuck yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, that sounds grass." So then they would have given them the rocket without a second thought. It's such a like carsploitation film, right? You can see how they made it uber accessible for dudes that love cars, and then almost in the background, there's this freaking fantastic Odyssey tale of Max that plays out, and I love a film that has like those two layers, right? That you can get blind drunk, turn your brain off, and just watch fast cars go broom, and you can also tune in and see this world and tragedy being explored. Like there's two different lenses to sort of like go in with this film, and it really sells to me that this is an exploitation film when it opens immediately with a shot of two people having sex through binoculars.
Oh yeah, that fucking threw me off. I'm just like, Jesus, okay, yeah, this is very it's just, you know, exploitation, low budget, late 70s type fare, like very indicative of like almost like horror movie. Because like one thing that I kind of got while watching this movie is that there are some like horror elements to this movie with how kind of brutal and depraved this film can be. A lot of the violence and depravity is implied, but it's still there. There is angles of not only carsploitation, revenge exploitation, but also shades of horror in this film, which, you know, found pretty interesting, honestly.
This opening with like seeing sex through binoculars to me is like the film asking the audience, what do you like watching? And then it immediately shows this tense chase scene. And then by like in this intense chase scene, there's this moment, right, where there's this like toddler that finds itself in the middle of this road amidst two cars freaking like just speeding through past the baby, and it just misses the child by like a couple of inches. The magic of editing in this moment as well, where like you really are convinced, did they put that baby between those two cars? Like, did they do this? Where insane. I think that's just where the line is drawn with the safety on set of Mad Max, is they didn't let that baby almost die.
It will almost murder a baby, but you know we'll pull it back just a little bit. You know, it's just, oh my god.
Yeah, and what I think is so integral about this happening, not only is this such a tense moment, but it also is a very important seed being planted of the main theming of this film. And what it is that it brings the idea of the family and like the family unit amidst the chaos of this world. Because that's something that this film has in many different ways that none of the others really have, is showing this family unit that still exists. Obviously, it's through like Max's family directly that we see it the most, but here we're introduced to a mother and her child at this service station, and right away, and showing how it's like how almost vulnerable this concept of the family unit is amidst this chaotic society that is breaking out in the wasteland, right? Like, I fucking love that. That is exactly what like you need to do to like show that the stakes are high. It's not just
god,
like baddies fighting baddies or anything like that. It is like a whole societal doctrine is at threat with this chaotic chaotic society. And then it sort of leads us into introducing Max as the Interceptor. And
oh, dude, the build up towards like actually introducing us to Max, fucking incredible. My God,
brilliant, right? And like right away, this is like you know how in freaking like year 11 and 12 media class they show you these like scenes in isolation that introduce a character and like what do the codes and conventions of film tell you about this character, and you have to like unpack that. Man, this is a prime example of like you haven't even seen this man's eyes yet. You know barely anything about him. You just know that his name is the title, and before you see him do anything other than sitting in the chair of a car, you know that this guy is someone not to fuck with. Yeah, you know that he is
a big deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it is freaking expertly done. And then that goes into our first the first this probably goes for close to 10 minutes. This first action scene, it feels like
it's crazy because it feels like a climactic chase scene, like the way that it's done. And with like the amount of stunts that are being performed, it feels like a climactic chase scene, but like, oh my God, like having that be like the opening, like the main hook to like get viewers really invested into this universe, insane. My fucking God. And the crashes that are done, like incredible. Fucking hell.
Completely, man. I think that there's this layer to this film that for us maybe like sort of potentially breaks the immersion of the Mad Max world, is that I don't know about you, but a lot of these environments, because it is just like regional Australia in the 70s, is very like it feels like that I've seen all of these places before.
Dude, it's completely watching this movie, like especially like the opening chase scene. I'm looking at all these like empty stretches of highway and countryside. I'm like, I feel like Rhys and I have driven through here before. The town that the bikies, when the bikies are first introduced, the town that they're in, I swear to God, I've been in that town with either you or with Cooper last year on our road to the city. I swear, like there's one bar that that's like in the background when they're introduced. I swear to God, Cooper and I have been there. I'm scanning the environment, being like, oh, I feel like I've been to one of these places before. It is insane. Like I was getting such major deja vu watching this.
Well, it's not just Australia that it's shot in, but it's also shot in Victoria.
Yeah. It's in regional Victoria, which is like just it's insane.
So and like I feel like from what I know of the locations, they're quite sort of like not close to the coast, like because our main regional Victoria that we would be exploring, right, is the stuff between Melbourne and Sydney from those many road trips.
Yeah,
I think that it is far more west that these ones are.
You reckon?
But I think so. Sadly, But it still does, like, there is this consistent aesthetic to these Victorian regional towns, right? That does feel really consistent.
Yeah.
But one place that you would have been before that this place is filmed is early in the film, and also it appears later, one of the garages that they're working in with all these strange pillars that, like, sort of go out and turn into the ceiling. That's the Melbourne Uni parking garage. Did you know that?
Wait, really?
Really? Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And like, you know what's interesting about that is that in year 11 media class, do you remember when Mr. Copping was like writing on the board different places where we could film stuff? Right. He suggested us to film there because still to this day, it's like a quite encouraged filming location.
Oh my God, that would have been insane. Bro, we could have filmed seasons there, dude. It wouldn't have made sense, but like we could have done that.
We could have had a garage scene.
Oh my God.
And like, I don't know if you picked this up or not, but ever since that, in year 11, when Mr. Copping suggested us to film there, is that you see so many short films here and there that were filmed in Victoria. So many of them use this as their filming location because it's such a unique design, right?
Yeah.
So it comes up all the freaking time. And yeah, it's like so there are literal places that you're like, oh yeah, I have been there. So it does create, like, does sort of break down a little bit of that disassociation. And like, no wonder that this film, I think, would have resonated with overseas audiences, because I think that this unique Australian aesthetic would have made the whole aesthetic of the film feel that little bit more alien. Like, as in, to every single layer of it, that the countryside looks a little bit like different and barren to what the countryside of America looks like. The all the locations and buildings, just like architecture is slightly different here as it is in America. And like, also just like the freaking accents and everything like that would have created this sort of dispersion between like, okay, this is another world that they are exploring. And then, like, but speaking of the accents, you of course know about the American dub of this movie.
Of course. I remember, like, right before playing this movie, I was praying, I was thinking to myself, I was like, please God, do not let this be the American dub. I do not want to watch the American dub. Thank God it wasn't. But yes, I am very familiar with the American dub, which in a way, like, while watching the movie, even I was sometimes having a hard time understanding what the fuck these bastards are saying, because
completely. Because
even though Rhys and I, we're Australians, it's sometimes hard to understand what some Australian folk will be saying, because sometimes their accents are just so thick and just so bizarre that it's like you're listening to a foreign language half the time. So and in a way,
so much slang.
Yes, exactly. So it makes sense as to why. It makes sense as to why, like, you know, I guess they would have made a dub, because American audiences at the time would be like, what the fuck are they saying, kind of thing, you know?
Also, they didn't have the best, like, sound equipment at this point, right? So a lot of I think it's mainly the outdoor scenes that some of the dialogue just sort of sounds like this. Like, it just doesn't, it's so sort of muffled and weird, and then you just hear, like, the Aussie slang syllables. And it's incomprehensible for even us Australian dudes.
But boy howdy did I feel a sense of Australian pride watching this film, man. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. Man, I am so curious to watch this American dub now.
Low-key.
Because then, like, it'll give a little bit of a alternative viewing experience now on, like, a fourth watch. And it's also really interesting that they're adopting the same practice that we do for Marathon Me. That, like, the real Rhys and Kane, we actually have American accents, but we get it dubbed over with these Australian dudes that do our voices, so that we can appeal to the Australian audience.
Exactly. Just to clear up real quick, Rhys is American, I'm Canadian. Just figured we should clear that up real quick.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Sorry, copper.
It's all right. Insert Canadian slang here. Yeah, it's alright, don't worry, you're forgiven.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about how this film, the setting of this film fits into this end of the world sort of, like, perspective. Because I want to hear what you, like, I know that you were expecting it to be a little bit more elevated, but did you still like the, like, little seeds of apocalypse that were like sort of spread in this film? Or were you a little bit like there was more to be desired?
No. I think from what this film gave us in terms of a post-apocalyptic landscape, like, it doesn't feel the most post-apocalyptic, especially compared to the later films. But you do get those seeds with, like, especially with a lot of the buildings being kind of, like, all fucked up, especially the police station. They're literally just in some abandoned building for, like, you know, conducting their police activities, which I'm like, okay, I see what they're going for. You don't really see a lot of the actual populated areas they go to are just, like, small little, like, rundown towns. So you don't really get a sense of, like, of the larger world out there. So you just kind of think, like, the larger world out there just, I guess, doesn't exist type thing. And the film doesn't really, like, state it at all, but you do get a sense of that the period that they're in right now is incredibly lawless, and, you know, there's only, like, you know, a few like, you know, little there's a few little precincts that are the fine line between, you know, order and chaos. Like, you do get a sense of that we're kind of on society is kind of on its last legs. You do get a sense of, like, you know, there are still normal people out there, but it's on its last legs, I think.
Totally. I am honestly obsessed with this specific sort of look at the apocalypse, because I would argue that this film is what it's portraying the world as is just pre-apocalyptic. Like, it's pretty much on the cusp of the apocalypse, where where resources are running low, people are sort of catching on to this, and chaos is slowly ensuing and becoming a part of society. And that's what I feel even like goes into. I think that very naturally goes into Max's storyline of, like, his family breaking down, because it's very much I think apparent that like Max and his family unit is almost one of the last sort of shreds of the old world before the new world of chaos is coming on. And what a brilliant freaking choice for George Miller to when introducing this film, have the text on screen tell us that the date when it's being set is just a few years from now. Fucking brilliant idea, because then it makes it timeless, right?
Yeah.
It makes them. If you are watching it in 1979, or if you're watching it in 2020 or 2080, then it still puts in this fear of a world that is running out of its order, and I love this choice, because it's saying, like, any day now this could happen and chaos could start to ensue. And my reading of the world that we're seeing in this one as well is that I think that Max as a police officer in this sort of society is that it still is, like, this isn't a city that we're looking at. It is, like, regional Australia.
Yeah.
And what I'm sort of seeing is that I would imagine when an apocalypse is happening, the places to lose their order and go into chaos quicker and have, like, their support drop off from, like, you know, the country sooner would be all these regional towns and regional communities. It would slowly move in to the city, and the city would be the last place that goes into chaos. I believe.
Yeah.
And all of those, like, the further you are out from the city, the quicker you will have to become almost like your independent little state, where everything is privately owned and organized. And how I'm reading these police officers, because there's, like, obviously they have, like, an order going on, and they are the sort of, like, authority. You look at the police station, it's a freaking mess. It's run down. They're obviously not normal police officers. They're all wearing leather, like, and like they seem to not really have too much concern for safety of the general public, right? Like, it was one of the cop cars that almost hit that baby at the start of the movie, and what I see that as is this sort of, like, small country towns, little independent authority enforcers, that they're sort of running on their own rules.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that I read the movie as well, where it's like they don't seem like, you know, like genuine cops. They just seem like a couple of dudes that just decided to just kind of step up and, like, try to keep the peace type shit.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's in this state of anarchy, and what I really, really love about this that I only noticed on this watch is how integral it is for Max's arc for him to sort of think and consider to himself what separates us from the gangs, from the toe cutter gangs and the bandits and everything. We're just following our own sort of code, but we still are like a a gang put together,
yes.
really.
Oh, yes,
And-
yes, because there is a great line in it where he is talking about, like, what separates us from the maniacs. I'm feeling like, Max is like, I feel like I'm slowly, becoming one of the maniacs. The only difference is that I got a shiny bronze badge to separate myself from the others, which I was like, damn, that is good shit right there.
And that is the breakdown of culture and society, right? When you no longer can identify what sort of side you're on. All that you can identify is that you're on your own particular camp. But the line between good and evil is starting to get blurred, and it's almost become like an animal kingdom out there then. Like there's and it's regressing back to this primal state where it's just clans fighting for survival instead of any greater, higher purpose. And that's like the fear that people that you're like going into here. So I love how specific that is, because usually you see post-apocalypse or the world ending. I feel like that you far less commonly in media will see this cusp where there's still old world is still there, but then the new chaotic structure of what the world is going to be is also so prevalent. And then there's this dichotomy there.
This film almost feels as if it's like you said like pre-apocalypse. It's like an interlude basically from the old world to the new world. This is like the original Mad Max is a nice little interlude of what came before and what is to come.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And like this is something. So let's talk about Max and his arc, because I am so hyper fixated on this idea of how important it is for Max to be mad. This sounds fucking dumb, right? But when on my second watch, I thought the same thing, but I took it in a totally different way. In this way that I'm like, oh, it's so important for Max to be mad. In the way that for Max to be angry, I took it as like angry Max.
Right.
It's so important that he's angry at society and culture and wants to get this revenge for like taking his family. We're really on this third watch instead. What's so important is how he's going mad in a sense of craziness, in a sense of like mental health, that he is turning into the chaos that's around him.
Yeah.
He's losing himself and becoming mad in that way. And that's like that is the arc that I'm obsessed with here in this film. So an integral part of Max's character, right, is that he unfortunately loses his wife and his child to the toe cutter gang. That they in this strange off-camera death, which is like a lot of the deaths of our main characters all occur off camera, which is honestly is great, because you don't want to see this happening, right? You don't want to see the people that we're supposed to care about dying. The only deaths that we sort of see happening are of the bad people.
Yeah, like the ones that you want to revel in, like the destruction and deaths of. Yeah.
And how like Max now is on this sort of revenge rampage after losing everything and feeling like the only way to sort of mellow out and get even with the world is by getting back at the people that took everything from him. What I realized here is that it's like a very integral part of the bandits and the Toad Cutter gang, I feel, is from the very start of the film, you figure out that these people are extremely loyal. The only reason that they're after Max, right, and like after the police force, is because they kill the Knight Rider.
Oh yes,
right.
Rest in peace, the Knight Rider. But yes, you are right. Yeah.
Rest in peace, the Knight Rider. And they're all like obsessed now with getting back at the police force for killing them. Extremely loyal people. And I was thinking about what bands a group of maniacs together like this that also makes them so loyal, is that probably all of these people also lost everything. They are probably just like in Max's shoes, but a few years down the track where they've lost everything and they're looking for some sort of sense of community and camaraderie, and they've made their own new sort of family, but in this destructive, chaotic sort of way, and it really is showing how sort of similar Max can potentially be to these people, and then when Max goes on this revenge rampage, pretty much most of the kills that occur from his hands are all very mirrored to kills that they all did of people that he loves.
Yeah.
Like, he's not just like shooting them in the head and then it's done. He wants to inflict the same pain onto them that they did onto the people that he loves, and that's why it's so perfect that the ending of this film with him leaving the bandit in the upside down car with the petrol freaking running loose, and mirroring exactly the way that poor Goose got killed. It just reverses the roles, right? And Max knows this. Max looking in the camera with this look of complete sort of shock and terror in himself is him knowing that he just did what made him so angry at the world for in the first place.
He became the very thing that he swore to destroy, in a sense.
Yeah. Oh, and it shows that now the whole world is turning feral because everyone is just losing whatever they hold dear to them. Oh, and all of this is done in 90 freaking minutes.
Insane.
How nuts is that?
In fucking sane. It's amazing, honestly, man. Fucking hell.
With such a unique personality, with all these strange cuts, wacky characters, weird music, and still such a such a substantial narrative there to sink your teeth into at the same time.
Oh my god, yeah. Also, there's just some really nice kind of no, red herring is the wrong word, but here's an example of one of my favorite bits of directing is that we mentioned earlier that there's the scene of the kid running on the road and nearly gets run over, and while watching the movie you kind of think like, oh my god, the kid's on the road, what the hell? And then they avoid the kid and you think like, okay, obviously it's a chaotic world, but obviously the film will not go to that extreme of killing a child, leading the viewer into a false sense of security, so when later on his wife and kid are murdered, it kind of pulls the rug from out under the audience, where they're like, holy shit, okay, no one is safe. It lulls you as Max is kind of lulled into a false sense of security. So when his family's taken away, not only is Max just completely blindsided by it, but the audience is as well, because it's like, Jesus, okay, this world is taking no fucking prisoners. This movie is taking no prisoners, which that was a little piece of directing that I was just like, damn, that is pretty fucking cool right there. Brutal, but really cool.
That is an excellent point, honestly. Where I have a confession to make. I cheated on you, Kane, with this marathon in the way that I watched the first 3 movies at my friend Tony's house, and we watched them all together.
Rhys.
Yep, I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Man, but come on, man. What the fuck?
But he also had not watched any of them before, so then we could sort of discuss and get ideas bouncing off one another, and I could sort of get a little bit of an insight into what the first watch of this would be like.
Yeah.
When Max's family gets killed, he's like, really? Did they do that? Yeah. No way. Is this ball and like the kid's shoes on the ground? Is that telling me that they're dead? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And he's like, no fucking way. And then they're just not around for the rest of the movie. Yeah. They obviously are dead, right? And yeah, you're right that you don't expect it to happen, and it happens with such casual, like, it's so casual.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so matter of fact about it.
And that must be intentional, right? Because every moment that they want to have weight in this film, and arguably in the rest of the franchise, they make sure that it has weight. They there's so many sound cues and like quick cutting. There's like we're left on this shot for quite a few seconds of the shoe and ball on the road, right? And then the motorbikes driving off in the background.
Yeah.
And this is not supposed to be an exciting scene. This is not supposed to be a scene where we're like, oh my god, what just happened? Like, we're supposed to be like, fuck, this is destroying what we know of the normal world. And that's what this moment does. There's no semblance of a normal family unit in the rest of the franchise from that time forward. And there's like, we haven't even brought this up yet, but around like the sort of 50-minute mark or something. So after Max goes to his police captain and is like, since Goose has gotten injured, he's like, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. I'm like, well, I think I might not be able to be a cop. And the police chief is like, how about you just take a couple of weeks off, have a holiday, enjoy your family, and maybe you'll want to come back at the end of it. And we get this like maybe 10 minutes or so of Max and his family just on holiday. Yeah. And like, there's this it's almost in the style of in the Omen, right? In the original Omen.
My thoughts exactly. I had the exact same thought, but yeah, go on.
How we just see your family enjoying each other and having a nice family holiday.
Yeah.
And that's so integral to happen to show us like the little last shreds of humanity. The last shreds of humanity that we understand in this world before, like, what I am taking the death of his wife and child as is that is the death of the old world.
Yeah,
that
completely.
Like he is like, not really, like, he is a symbol of the last family unit that exists in this earth.
Yeah, they're it is symbolic of like the end of the world, and like kind of just of normalcy as we know it, because that 10-minute segment of them on holiday, it's the audience getting to get one last taste of just the old world before just everything comes crumbling down. It's like and then the scene of the death of his family is metaphorically the end of the world for society, but also of course for Max as well, because his world is just his own world is destroyed.
It's the death of innocence almost, right? Like and there's no coming back from it at that point.
Oh yeah.
That is the moment that changes the trajectory of the Mad Max franchise to becoming an apocalyptic franchise. The apocalypse has started the moment that they get hit on that road.
It was at this moment Max truly became mad.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. Like, and fuck, I love that. Like, it's so interesting picturing this film existing as its own entity, right? Like, there being a couple of years where Mad Max is a sole property, there's no sequels, anything like that. And I think that it only gives it more weight and strength as it does become something greater than that. And for this little thing to be the fuse that sparks the IP that is Mad Max is just chef's kiss, in my opinion. There's a couple of other things that I want to mention before we tie up Mad Max in a bow.
Yeah.
But I just want to I want to bring up the super masculine aesthetics in this world and the weird irony that's there with also it being like the aesthetics really resembling the queer world at the same time too.
Right, yeah.
Like it's such like a dude movie in the way of like it's strong men, cars, mateship, and beer. It's the only one where we get to see Mad Max having a beer.
Yes, that is true.
But then also it is so like clearly resembling like the queer world. and this was very much brought up to me with like all the leather, right?
Yeah. Oh,
is
my God,
so 70s queer world.
Yeah.
A lot of the costumes from the entire franchise George Miller got from BDSM shops.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. Especially in the later ones, but yeah, even in this one, it's very alternative, very queer coded in terms of wardrobe. Yeah.
There's awareness of the campiness of it all and wanting to have fun with it and. I think showing this contrast to the hypermasculinity of it all. And like this is very much highlighted to me when Max goes to visit his police captain.
Oh yeah, he's just got his fucking shirt. He's this big this big bear with his goddamn shirt off.
Burly man with no shirt, leather pants, scarf, watering some plants is just that is what like half of the queer community would have looked like in the 70s in gay clubs in Australia.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It's so I really, really love that.
It's such a fucking awesome contrast, man. My God.
Also, we've got to also bring up Toe Cutter, our main antagonist in this, who has so much weight, wacky as fuck, I think, has this Shakespearean sort of, has this Shakespearean vibe and energy to himself.
It is good that you mentioned that because the actor I think it's Hugh Keys Grant, I think his name is, he is a Shakespearean trained actor, so... And he was told basically just do what you know in this film.
So good.
So it definitely comes out in this, which works perfectly, man. It's also it's a great way to also like separate him from the rest of the gang, because if he's playing the kind of crazy that everyone else is playing, it all blends together. You have him do a more give off a more Shakespearean aura to him that it gives him more weight as the big bad type shit.
And something that I noticed about this this group of bandits that Toe Cutter leads is that like something that there's a scene with them hanging out on the beach, right? They're just hanging near the pier. Looks like freaking Altona Beach. Probably was. And this to me resembles and mirrors so much the gang from the film The Warriors, the Riffs, where they also hang out near the beach, fucking around, shooting random shit. And I was like, wow, this is such a aesthetic reflection of the Riffs from The Warriors, which also came out in the same year.
Oh yeah, true.
And it's not like that George Miller would have seen The Warriors and then replicated that in this, because they both would have been in production at the same time. So the Mad Max, the Warriors, is arguably one of it's up there in like probably top 5 or top 10 most influential action films of like ever sort of thing.
Right.
Extremely like inspired so much cinema in different avenues, and this here predates it and resembles this similar aesthetic with their main gang, and through this main Mad Max trilogy, there's all these little weird things that I noticed that I was like, this is predating a very like big cultural relic or moment, but no one talks about this. Everyone's talking about the Warriors hanging out at the beach and having their big climax near the pier at the beach, but people aren't talking about the Toe Cutters and their beach spot hangout. But anyway, what do you have any final thoughts to mention about the first Mad Max film?
One thing that I did find out research-wise, it's just a little tidbit, is that that I found pretty interesting was the scene of Max leaving the kid handcuffed to the car wreck before it explodes, and when he hands him the hacksaw and tells him like you can saw the chain in 10 minutes, but you saw your leg off, you can get it done in 5. That scene, scene was one of, if not the biggest inspiration for the original Saw movie and the Saw franchise in general. Which which like I'm sure you already knew, but like I just I feel like we have to mention it, or else all the Saw heads, Lee Winnell and James Wan, they'll come out of the woodwork and they'll be like, hey, where's our shout out? So I just gotta shout those fellow Aussies out. So don't worry, boys, we got you. Come on the show. Come on.
Man, Mad Max freaking starting all these trends of inspiration and everything. It truly is like a visionary's product.
Oh my God,
Like all of the freaking promotional material for Furiosa is like from the mastermind George Miller. And I have to agree.
Oh.
He is a fucking mastermind.
Oh my God, yeah.
Real trendsetter, and with at this point having such little filmic knowledge in actually how do you make a film, it is insane that he made this.
It is a testament to just the to just the work ethic of George, of not only George but like the rest of the crew, and and just their determination that like, hey, we kind of don't really know what the fuck we're doing, but we're just gonna roll with it. And that is just something that you even if you don't like the movie, you gotta at least respect the men and women behind this picture. Like, you gotta respect them for that at least.
Everyone seemed to have fun on set here, right? Have a weird old time. A lot of the bikers in this were actual just members of a bikie gang that were hired to come on there. Apparently, they were threatening Mel Gibson on set all the time in this in this sort of jokey way. But then there's interviews with Mel Gibson being like, I was actually pretty uncomfortable and scared.
Yeah, he's like, I'm pretty scared. Like, they were just being a couple of larrikins, just being, hey, I'm gonna fucking kill you, mate. Nah, don't worry, mate. You're all right, mate. You're all right. Type shit. Like, because a lot of them ended up, what's it called? They had to travel via bike all the way from like Sydney to rural Victoria because it was just cheaper to do it that way. So a lot of them ended up bonding through that road trip, and then they started coming up with their own kind of character backstories, and they were all living together in very like fucked conditions, just mattresses on the floor, drinking beers, punching darts, just a couple guys being dudes, and like that camaraderie translates so fucking well into the film, where you get a sense that this biker gang, it's just a couple guys being dudes, just a couple guys just fucking hanging about, being a bunch of weirdos, which like is so fucking cool to see.
This would have been so much fun to be on set around. It would have been as chaotic as the world that George Miller is creating in front of us.
Oh my goodness,
And it translates. The fun, the enthusiasm, the unique world building, all freaking translates. So, even though the Mad Max may not be for everyone, if you want to see how Max got mad, it's unmissable. And don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like a podcast without the ask.